I'm Chance Dorland, and this is the Spurs Insider, our weekly NBA podcast from expressnews.com, brought to you today by the law offices of Thomas J. Henry. And as I am every week, joined now by San Antonio Express News Spurs beat reporter Jabari Young. Great to have you back, Jabari.
Thanks for having me, man. How was your weekend, Chance?
It's okay. I'm a little under the weather. Hopefully I'm not going to hack up a lung here on the podcast, but that is the glory that is editing. So I can take all that out afterwards and just sound like a normal guy.
Yeah, you got to sit in the steam room, man. You got to go to a gym somewhere and you got to sit in the steam room and you got to sweat it out. That's what I do.
I got those bone chills right now, like, you know, where you're like wrapped up in a blanket, your body hurts. So yeah, I'm hurting, but I'll probably be better in the next couple days.
Yeah, I'm pulling for you, man. Those aren't no joke. They ain't no joke.
But enough about me and my horrible health. Let's talk about the Spurs, who have been doing better than they were a few weeks back, although with the recent loss, not as good as we had hoped.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, you finished 6-0 on that 6-game homestand, and on a previous podcast, we were saying how imperative that is, that you have to make sure that you take care of business on your home court, something that the Spurs have been, you know, they didn't do it on the road, but, you know, you had to take care of business on your home court, and they did that. You know, nobody can get mad at the fact that they went 6-0 on that homestand. You know, now, obviously, they started the road trip off, you know, against the Milwaukee Bucks, you know, with that loss, but at the same time, I'm still impressed with how they handled their business on their home court, specifically on the defensive end, where they were holding teams to under about 95 points, you know, in that 6 games at home. So the defense has been good. LaMarcus Aldridge has been lights out, won the Western Conference Player of the Week on Monday. And I'm just, like I said, I think they took care of business on their home court. The road, you know, the 2-game road trip is obviously every game's important, but at the same time, I think that 6th game gave them some breathing room. So, you know, I'm just impressed with it. It was a great homestand that the Spurs put together.
And of course, let's get back to that evergreen topic. We're starting off with it this time rather than having it at the end, because there was a players only meeting to check in, or I guess to check in with, I would say, Kawhi Leonard. It was kind of off the cuff. He didn't know it was going to come his way, but it was organized and it happened. What do you think about that, Jabari?
Well, first of all, you know, there's a lot of misconceptions or about a lot of information out there that had the players only meeting as a tense meeting, as something that was, you know, emotional. You know, national reports said that, and I'm here to say that that's false.
The players disagreed with that pretty quickly.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Yes, they did, and for what I was told, that meeting obviously it caught Kawhi a little bit off guard, but at the same time, the meeting was just to see exactly where he stood health wise. You know, it's a difference. When you're a player, you don't want to hear things from the media, especially from the face of your with the face of your franchise. You want to hear things directly from the athlete, directly from the player, directly from your teammate. And I think that's all that was, you know, and I believe guys when they say, listen, we were just checking in, you know, we got tired of, you know, talking about, you know, hey, is he coming back? Is he not coming back? We wanted to check in for ourselves to hear it. And so that way we'll know what we have moving forward. Listen, people, you know, say what you may. I have no problem with, you know, the meeting at all. I thought, as a matter of fact, if you're two leaders in Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, that's something that you had to have that because, A, not only are you the two veteran leaders on this team, the two longest tenured Spurs on this team, you have to just check in. You have to make sure that this locker room is still, you know, stable. You have to make sure that the face of the franchise understands where you guys are coming from. You're in the middle of a playoff battle. You're trying to keep yourselves in a playoff picture, and y'all just want to know where you stand. You know, this is the thing. You want to know who you're going into battle with. You know, you want to see all of your soldiers. Hey, I got you on my side. You know what I mean? It's like when you're in a pickup basketball game, you know, y'all choosing teams. You saying, yo, you're in my team, you're on my team, you're on my team. Okay. And it's us against them, you know, and so you're just trying to figure out who you are going into battle with. And I think that's all that was. And I have no problem with it. I thought it was a great way, you know, how it was organized. Maybe not have been the best, but I thought it was just a great opportunity for Tony Parker and then Manu Ginobili to speak up, you know, and I have no problem with the way Kawhi, you know, held his ground and said, listen, you know, I'm trying to get back. I'm going to come back when I'm ready to come back, you know, I have
he
no
held
problem
his ground, but gave no new information whatsoever.
Right, because he doesn't really know. He's still trying to find out when and when his doctors are going to give him clearance, if they are going to give him clearance. And so I think that, if he knew anything more, I don't see why Kawhi Leonard will withhold any information, especially from his teammates, guys who, that have his back on that basketball court. So I think he really didn't know. But I had no problem with, Tony and Manu actually speaking up. And I have no problem with Kawhi holding his own and saying, I'm coming back when I'm coming back. And now, as the Spurs, as your players is in this locker room now, as players is on that court, you have to play like there will be no Kawhi Leonard this season. If he comes back,
yeah, because speaking of Ginobili, it was either in something you wrote or one of our other guys that covers the Spurs for the San Antonio Express News. I remember reading specifically the question got asked to Ginobili, and he's like, in my mind, he's not coming back.
Not coming back.
Because we are not going to waste, this is my wording, but basically, we are not going to waste our time thinking he's coming back. We are going to play right now with the people that we have, and that's what we're going to focus on. He was very straightforward about that.
And that's fine. And I love that he did that. I love that he said that, because you have to start with about what, a little under 9 games left. You got to start thinking about life after. You have to start saying, you know what, we'll go into battle, and if he'll join us at a later date, then fine. Markelle Fultz, who missed 68 games, played for the 76ers. If anything, I think I don't know how big of an impact that this may have on the whole Kawhi Leonard situation, but this guy was he went through a shoulder problem in his shooting arm, and obviously had some, what they said, psychological things that he had to work through to get his jump shot back. But he made and played on Monday night in the Sixers win over the Denver Nuggets and looked pretty good. And so after missing 68 games, this guy steps right back on the court late in this season. And the Sixers have already clinched the playoff berth, but he steps back on the court this late in the season to help this team. And now people are going to start to say, hey, wait, if this guy can do it, why can't Kawhi step back? Now, I understand it's two different injuries. Guys heal differently, understand that. But if anything, I want to see over the next few days how this impacts, or if it does impact, the decision with Kawhi Leonard. But at the same, if he's still hurt and he still feels like he can't go, I'd rather for the Spurs to shut him down and look forward to next season after you repair whatever damage could have been done through this whole scenario this offseason, and move forward from there. And if not, then, it is what it is. But I'm just curious to see how it goes now, because after watching Markelle Fultz make his season debut, I'm starting to think, well, wait, I wonder if it's not too late to bring Kawhi Leonard back. I thought it was, but I wonder if it's not too late, because a top 5 player like that, when he can step on the court, and I think that there are people inside of the Spurs, there are players that's on that team that understands, with him on the roster, with him on that court, along with the guys that are playing now, the Spurs feel they can beat anybody. And that includes the Golden State Warriors, who are banged up themselves right now.
The Golden State Warriors when their players are healthy.
Yes,
it's like two different Golden State Warriors that they play against. Yeah,
but guess what? That's not anybody else's concern, because the Warriors certainly don't have any problem. They didn't have a problem beating the Cavaliers that year with Kevin Love, was injured. Kyrie, they didn't have a problem then. So now that they're banged up, people are not going to feel sorry for them. Not whatsoever. They're not going to feel sorry for the Golden State
we always
Warriors.
Talk about this. No one's feeling sorry for nobody.
Absolutely
That's
not.
right. Yeah,
Absolutely not.
We realize that. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about Kawhi when we get to some questions that have been submitted to us via social media. But let's move on now. Let's talk about the week ahead. We got the Thunder on Thursday, Houston on Sunday. Tell me about these games, Jabari.
Well, you got to look at it and say, okay, are these must-win games? I don't think that they're both must-win. I just think that the Spurs have to get one of them. I think they got to beat OKC on Thursday, because that's a team that you could see in the first round, and you just want to make sure that you send and relay a message like, listen, we may be down our face of the franchise, but we ain't going nowhere. We feel like we can compete with y'all. We feel like we can beat y'all. They just beat y'all on their home court on their 3-game road trip that y'all were on. And so now you got to just kind of send a message the same way you sent the message to the Utah Jazz the other night when you played them. You know what I mean? The same message that you sent then is the message that you got to send now. You have to be able to send that and say, you know what? Listen, we're not scared, Russell Westbrook. We ain't scared of you. We're not scared of Paul George. We're not scared of Carmelo Anthony. We feel like we can beat you guys if we had to see you in the first round. So I think that game against the Oklahoma City Thunder is more must-win than that game in the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets, I think down the road, you'll deal with them if you have to see them in the second round again. I think so. But the game against OKC is just that important because, again, this is a team that you very well can see in the first round. And even the Houston Rockets, you can see in the first round if you fall all the way to the 8th seed, which I don't think the Spurs will fall that far. So, two important games, two very important games. But that one on Thursday at home against OKC, that one is the one that I'm really paying attention to. This whole stretch, this next stretch coming up, you got OKC, Houston, got to go to LA and have a back-to-back with the Clippers and Lakers, and then you got to come home for the Portland Trailblazers. These next 5 will tell me all that I need to know and will allow me to feel if this team is truly ready to go and enter the playoffs. This is going to be an important stretch coming up for them. Believe that.
Yeah, and we know how you feel about the Trailblazers, looking for that matchup to come down the pipe.
You know that.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah, we covered that last week pretty well. So, all right, we'll leave that there. Well, we have some good questions to get to. So let's dedicate a good amount of time to this. Time now for our fans Q&A session, things we got from listeners and readers via our Spurs Nation Facebook and Twitter page. So starting things up, going back to our evergreen topic, I promised we'd go back to it. Here we are. When does Greg Popovich take the reins and officially shut down Kawhi? That is from Matthew Tyson via Twitter.
I think that it's one of those situations where it's almost, I almost feel like that should have occurred a while ago. If you really feel that you're facing
that would have been nice.
Yeah, if you really feel it, and I think it would have cut down on a lot of drama. If you really feel the face of your franchise and he's that hurt and he's telling you this, I'm still not ready to go. When Greg Popovich made that announcement, says, I'll be surprised if Kawhi plays this season. That was your window to say, I'll be surprised, and better yet, let's just go ahead and say that he's not coming back this season. We're going to just
right, take a pause because I'm not going to allow him to return.
Yeah,
wow, just imagine if that would have happened, how simple it could have been.
It would have made life much simpler for both Kawhi Leonard and both for the team, and you're doing your players a great service because now they know he's not coming back. Now there is no media report. Now there is no, he might be coming back this day. There is none of that. You shut him down completely because the Spurs have just as much control as Kawhi Leonard does. He has to get approval from his medical team, right? But then after he gets that approval, he still
they have to approve it.
And then they got to approve because they got to look at him on the court and say, okay, we think you're ready to go. And so they could have shut him down a long time ago. So I think that Greg Popovich, I think they may have missed the window already, and you're letting this thing linger on. It's something that should have already been done, that you shut him down, because at that point, you're really letting him know, listen, dude, we care about your future with us. It's not about this season. This season didn't go the way we planned out. We care about your future with us. And I think that's sending a positive message to Kawhi, a positive message to his camp, a positive message all around, letting you know that, listen, we're really serious when we tell you that we're worried about your future, not about now. Okay, we got years and years and years of basketball that we want to get out of you. And if this one we can't get, then it's okay. You're not promised to win it every year. You're not promised to lose it either. But at the same time, you got to do what you got to do for the best interest. So I think that they kind of missed the window a little bit there. But at this point right now, we just said, got a 5-game, stand that you have that you got to really take care of business. And then after that 5 games, you got basically 2 games left, Sacramento and against the New Orleans Pelicans, right? So you're talking 7 altogether. Is it time to pull the plug now? You know what I mean? Is it time to pull the plug now? I get where the Spurs are coming from because, again, they really feel that if he's healthy, that they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. And I understand that. And all it takes is, hey, you know what? I feel really, really good now. One day he wakes up, nothing in his leg. He feels good. He goes on the court, looks good. And they're saying, all right, let's go. Let's get back in here. I understand that. I really do. And if you're holding out hope, if you really sincerely think that that's going to occur within these next 7 games, then okay, cool. Let it ride. You didn't want this long anyway. Let it ride out. But at the same time, I thought that if they wanted to do that, they should have done that when Greg Popovich earlier said that he'd be surprised. I think that was the opportunity to say, you know what, we are shutting them down. But now that you let it linger on, now I'm almost saying, you know what, might as well let it ride out now. You can let them, go ahead, let it ride out now. It's too late anyway. It's too late. If you shut them down now, then it looks like you guys waited too long. And why you shut them down with 7 games to go? He wants to come back anyway. And if you let him go, then it's just a possibility that, he could come back. So I understand it. They shut him down. They know that he's done. Okay. And mentally, if you shut him down or you tell him we're shutting you down, then he's starting to prepare for next season. He's done. If you don't tell him, then it's still, you're holding out hope. So I understand where the Spurs are coming from, but I thought, like I said, if they wanted to do it, if they really, really wanted to do it, they already missed their window.
Yeah, they missed a sweet spot.
Absolutely.
But just imagine, though, if he does come back either like right at the end of the regular season or sometime in the beginning of the playoffs, something like that, and he just is like out for blood and he does really, really well, then you see the headlines, genius Popovich. I mean, like not counting him out. So, maybe.
Yeah.
And if we didn't get enough of Kawhi Leonard with all the discussion we've had so far, you get another question via Dom the Dopest from Twitter. So, Jabari, if we are able to get Kawhi back and actually make a run in the West, how do you think number 2 comeback is going to affect LaMarcus? He's getting lots of touches, taking great advantage of it, but may be negatively affected with Kawhi back, ? What do you think?
That's been the big question that, we've had when Kawhi made his season debut when LaMarcus was playing at a high level. And we said, okay, how is this going to coexist? And LaMarcus was one of the first guys to come out and say, you know what, we got to make this work. That's not it's up to Popovich, Greg Popovich, who got the man who calls the plays, the man who tells, the point guard where to go with the ball. It's up to him to make sure that they are established enough where Kawhi and LaMarcus both can eat. And that's going to be the challenge. But I think if you're Kawhi Leonard and you come back, mentally you have to understand that this team has been on LaMarcus Aldridge's back. Maybe you get on his back as well and say, hey, man, I understand that I'm supposed to be the face of the franchise, but this is our team, okay? I'm following your lead. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're Kawhi Leonard. That's not taking a back seat to anybody. You're basically saying, I'm here to help you. You're playing at a high level right now. My presence on the court should help us. And it should help you because now teams can't send double teams at you. They can't just blitz you, okay? I'm here to help you, okay? I'm here to help you. And so I think Kawhi comes back and he takes that off LaMarcus's shoulders. It's not the other way around. So, I don't think it is going to happen. And if you're LaMarcus also, you got to understand you can't just take a back seat. You can't willingly and say, hey, you know what, it's Kawhi's back, so I'm going to go back and be in number 2. No, you got to remain and have that number 1 mindset and say, I'm still the guy. Because this team's been going to you. You've been carrying them. You just won Western Conference Player of the Week again. You got to do what you got to do, man. And so I don't think it's going to have a negative effect because I think that LaMarcus is playing at such a high level that I think even he knows that he can't take a backseat. He won't take a backseat. And I don't think Greg Popovich will allow that. If anything, Kawhi Leonard is going to come back, gets him where he fits in. And I think the difference between the two is Kawhi can get his own shot off. LaMarcus needs to be established in certain situations to be able to score. So I think it'll just help. I don't think it'd be a negative at all. Like I said before, Kawhi Leonard can make an impact on both ends of the floor, defensively as well as offensively. So you add a top 5 player like that, a guy who is arguably the best two-way player in the league, it can only help your roster, and hopefully it can assist what is right now your best player in LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah, and especially at a time when the Spurs have really stepped up their defense, what a boost that would be.
Absolutely.
So moving on, this is now our last question from social media, but it's a 2-parter, so double dose. Considering his youth and inexperience, Jabari, do you believe Popovich will play DeJounte Murray during crunch time in the playoffs? Obviously, we just had not so great of a decision on his end in the recent games.
Well, he's still young, so he has to learn, right? And so if he has to learn, then these key situations where he makes those errors is only going to teach him what not to do when he gets back in that situation again. Okay, when you gave
and that's what he said. He said he was going to use it as a learning experience and take something away from it.
You have to, yeah. And that's mandatory. Okay, when you got a guy like DeJounte Murray, a young guy like that, he's going to make mistakes. Those errors are going to be committed, but I fully believe and I fully think that he is he can do things on the basketball court that, Tony Parker just can't right now. His length, his defense, his rebounding off the hook is off the charts. His athleticism, Tony Parker has that corporate knowledge. He's smart. He understands things and where to go with the basketball in key situations. And that's a feel thing. You know what I mean? Like DeJounte Murray is going to get that feel down sooner rather than later. But I think that if he's playing at a high level in that game that we're hypothetically speaking about, and he's playing that well, then I think you got to keep him in. You got to let him learn. You just got to hope that he doesn't make the mistake. And if he does make a mistake in a key possession, then, Greg Popovich will pull him, maybe put his veteran in, and DeJounte Murray will go back and he'll learn. But at the same time, like I said, this is all a learning experience for him, all of it. And, you got to be impressed with the way that he's not only taking it on the court, but the attitude, the mindset that he, continues to have off the court, which is, I don't fear anybody, bring it on. Let's go. You know what I mean? I'm going to get better. We're going to get better. And so you got to love that.
And then this is the second part of that two-part question from Art Clark via Twitter, Jabari. There seems to have been a downturn in Bryn Forbes' play recently. Anything contributing to that in particular?
I talked to Brent about that not too long ago, and he admitted that, it's a fatigue thing, that this man has played over 60 games for the first time in his career. This is the most games that he's played in his basketball career ever. All his life. He's never played 60 games in a span of 6 months. You know what I mean? So it was just one of those situations where he's fatigued. I think his body is, still getting adjusted to the grind the grind of an NBA season, which is hard. Traveling back to backs. You know what I mean? It's hard. And especially with Bryn, a guy who uses a lot of energy on the defensive end of the floor because he knows that's what keeps him on the court. And so maybe his jumper or maybe that three ball hasn't fallen like it was. And he admitted it's been a fatigue thing. He feels like he's, kind of getting his second win, that he's getting his legs back a little bit. But it's been a fatigue thing for him. And I expect him to, I can see the rest of this season possibly being a little struggle for him. But at the same time, he's only in his, second year. So, now he understands going into an off season the things you have to do to make sure that your body is ready to handle the grind of an 82-game schedule where it does take a toll on you. It really does. Right now, everybody's beat up. Guys are trying to right now preserve themselves. They're trying to preserve their body, especially those teams who are top notch. Just why you see a guy like Steph Curry, where Steve Kerr comes out and says, listen, he's not coming back for the first round of the playoffs, so we're not going to have him back. They understand it's about the long haul. You got to preserve yourself. And so, those top teams, I would not be surprised if guys started to sit out rest-wise. You're ready for the real game now. Playoffs are coming up. This is the real stuff, the real deal. This is what you get paid money for, to go to playoffs and win a championship. So, with Brent, I think, like I said, he's a little fatigued, but, he'll get used to it. And, don't be surprised if he still hits a big shot. But right now, you can just tell that fatigue has kind of really took over for him.
Yeah, and just talking about that and Murray, I mean, learning experiences, so better off next time around.
Absolutely. The second season, or the third for those guys should be much, much better. But, it's just that grind of a long season. So it's hard. It's tough.
All right. Well, once again, the thoughts and the future outlook from San Antonio Express News Spurs beat reporter Jabari Young. Big thanks for joining me, of course, as we do every week. And we'll talk to you next week with hopefully some more good news coming from Spurs country, Jabari.
Appreciate it, man. Listen, I hope you feel much better, my brother. Go sit in the steam room, go get some rest, man, and feel better.
Yeah, there have been so many coughs that the glory that is editing has removed from this podcast. So Jabari had to put up with all that in his ear while he was talking about the Spurs. Don't
even worry about it. I just want you to feel better. We need you around, man. Playoffs coming up, man. Listen, we need you around here. We do.
Yes, hopefully. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, appreciate the thoughts that you're sending my way, Jabari. We'll talk with you next week. Have a good one, man.
All right, man. Feel better.
And thanks again to San Antonio Express News Spurs reporter Jabari Young for those great well wishes on my health, and of course for joining me for today's episode of the Spurs Insider, our weekly NBA podcast from expressnews.com. Brought to you today by the law offices of Thomas J. Henry. For expressnews.com, I'm Chance Dorland.